Yeah. But we did a survey. How's everyone doing today? Good. Thanks for coming in on a Friday afternoon. We have a lot of good information for you, for those of you who are interested in getting into the technology industry. For the first half, we're going to be going over the job market, what that looks like, the outlook, and then we're going to talk about transfer and some of the degrees that we have here on campus, so you have an idea. And then towards the tail end, around like 1:30, we are going to have our 3 panelists join us to talk about their experiences in school, what their background is like, and how they got into the work that they got into. Today, unfortunately, we only have 3 of our speakers that we were supposed to have 4, but we were not able to get the 4th one. But we do have 1 from Google and then 2 from a financial company, and they'll explain to you what they do in their jobs. So the great thing about technology and the field itself is that there are so many applications and there's so many ways to get into the field. So you'll see from our panelists their different backgrounds, the different levels of the degree levels that they have, and the different responsibilities that they have in the work that they do. So that's kind of the highlight, and it's really to show you what those opportunities look like and if that's something that you can see yourself doing in the future. So just a note that this is a recorded event, so we usually share it with our students who are unable to come, and to also continue learning for them. So we'll go ahead and get started. So we'll talk about an introduction to the technology industry, careers in technology, degrees and majors, and then go right into the panel. So I know I've met most of you. My name is Angela. I'm the STEM counselor. And then we have Patty, Patricia Laura. She's our CGCA. You might also see her in the office or maybe ask her for some help. She's usually in the office to help out students with time management, study skills, locating internship or research opportunities for you, and even walk you through what that process is like, including career help like resume writing, interviewing skills, those types of things. So if you haven't met her yet, here she is, and you can always see her in the STEM office. So when we're talking about the technology industry, this is a widespread and increasing use of computers and information technology that has generated a need for highly trained, innovative workers with extensive theoretical expertise. So in the past 10 years, we've seen a boom in the industry with about 24% growth. So, and it's going to continue to grow because there's so much information out there, and there's so many applications for all of that. And so how do we use that? And so what kinds of jobs are out there that utilize that? So from the people that we have on today, we have a software engineer, and then we also have people who use their skills in the industry to make decisions in their company and to build the networks for their company. And so recently I went to a conference, and I met so many people in different STEM fields, including most of them in research or academia or doing research for the government. I met some in the geosciences. I met some that work for the Department of Energy. I met some that were working at medical research labs. And so one of the common things that we found, or that I found in talking to them, is that computer information and computer science is a really big part of their work. So I sat in a talk about agriculture, and you would think like in the field of agriculture that there is no application for computer science because you're out in the fields, right? You're trying to figure out what's the most effective ways to run the farm. But now I think in North Dakota, there are a lot of farmers who are now relying on technology to help them run their businesses a lot smoother. But without adequate access to internet in those remote areas, it makes it really difficult for them. So that's why they need computer scientists and that information to make decisions for their fields. And so that's only one application that you wouldn't even think, like, oh yeah, and now they're using drones and robots to take care of the fields, to identify where the weeds are, and then target just that one weed instead of spraying the entire field. So those are that's just one application that I was like really blown away by, because I would never think that computer science and agriculture can come together. And so it's things like that that you really want to start asking questions about, and asking yourself, in computer science, in computer information technology, what are its applications? What interests you in the field, and how can you use these skills to solve problems in the real world? So some of the disciplines that we're going to talk about today include the right half, bioinformatics, business information systems, cognitive science, biographical information, or geographical information system, computer science and engineering, graphic communications and info systems. Specifically, computer science and engineering and information systems, because as transfer students, those are the majors that are available to you. And then the other areas are just different areas of study that you could use to apply those degrees. So as you can see, that there are a lot of applications and even that are not on this list, like agriculture or geosciences, that is still requiring computer science and engineering and info systems. So, but those bold ones are the ones that we're mainly going to focus on today. Okay. We ready? So I'm going to have Patty take over and talk about those areas.
So as we mentioned, there's various disciplines within computer science, and so one of the ones we're talking about is going to be computer science and engineering. So what do computer scientists do? I picked up a definition. They're essentially designers, creators, and inventors of new technology. By creating new technology or finding alternative uses for existing resources, they solve complex business, scientific, and general computing problems. So it's a very broad definition of what a computer science major could do. And so in further discussion of it, you can find computer scientists working on multidisciplinary projects, collaborating with electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and other specialties. The field involves the understanding and design of computers and computational processes. And then the disciplines range from the theoretical to the practical, which can include algorithms and data structures, programming methodology, languages, hardware engineering, software engineering, networking, and communication and database systems. The other discipline that we're going to pay particular attention to is information systems. So their definition of what they do is they plan, coordinate, and direct research on the computer-related activities of firms. In consultation with other managers, they help determine the goals of an organization and then implement technology to meet these goals. So along with having the skills of working with computers, you had to be able to coordinate and work with other people within the field. So I think social skills are also something that's highly desired here, management techniques. So in the modern workplace, it's imperative that you work both effectively and reliably. So managers play a vital role in the implementation and administration of technology within their organization. So like reiterated, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, employment of computer and information systems manager is expected to grow 17% between 2008 to 2018, which we're in right now. So my three main takeaways from this section are going to be the technology field is among the fastest growing and highest paying sectors over the next decade. There's a range of educational pathways that one can go into to reach this field. It doesn't only have to be educational, it could be professional, it could be certificates, 2 to 3, 4 years, military experience. It's important within this field to not only know how to, the technical knowledge involved within the field, but to be creative, to be team-oriented, to value respect, and be flexible. So the next section we're going to go into is discussing some 8, I think I chose, yeah. So I researched 8 different careers that we could learn more about, see what they're about, what they entail, and just get a better idea of what is expected in this field and what they're known to do. So software engineering, computer systems engineer, web developer, information security analyst, database administrator, network engineer, software programmer, and computer programmer. So oftentimes when I meet with students, freshmen starting out community college, they're already chosen a computer science major. And I'm like, oh, what's the interest in it? Like, do you have a career in mind, or what's the passion for this? And a lot of times the answer is, I just like computers. And it's like, that's great. That's a great start. But what are the next steps? Like, how do you learn more about the field? Like, is it for you? And oftentimes I'm like, I don't know. So what are some ways that you can learn more about a field available to you here on Mission?
Maybe you've used before. Yes, you can go to me.
Yes, you can go to a counselor to get more information. Other resources available to you are the Career Center. So we have a great Career Center with a great counselor and CGCAs like myself who work there. And they can provide you access and help with further researching these different careers. You can also do it yourself online. It's free to you as a student here. Most of the information we got for this section of the presentation is through an online resource called onet.online, I think, something like that. onetonline.org.
So you might want to use this. I might have used this during your counseling sessions, but it's definitely a good place to start learning about jobs. So if you want to jot that down.
Yeah. So this site, you could even just go through lamission.edu, Career Center, and this site is available through them. As a student, you just type in your login info, and then it provides details about different careers that you may be interested in. Not only the details about what it is that it entails, it provides like they ask questions of professionals in the field already. Like, what kind of degrees do you already have? Some will say, oh, well, I have an associate's degree and I'm working here. Some will say a bachelor's degree. And then it also details what the salary wage is, like the most up-to-date salary for this career. So we'll get started. I think software engineers first. So as you can see, I laid it out. It might be confusing. So I'm going to explain it. Software engineer, top left. On the right-hand side are the other names that this career can go by. There's various names. They alternate. The requiring good analytical skills is a description of this career. So for software engineer, you require good analytical skills and an attention to detail. Software engineers combine their knowledge of maths, engineering, and computer science to design, develop, test, and evaluate software. The left-hand corner of the bottom is going to be descriptions of what the strengths they're looking for within individuals interested in this career. So computer and electronics, engineering and technology, mathematics, telecommunications, design. So that's not to say that's all they're looking for, but these are the things that are typically valued according to onetonline.org. And then the right-hand side is, as it addresses, it's the educational level that most of the respondents had shared they reached in order to reach the software engineering career field. It's bachelor's degree. You can always go higher, of course, though. Projected growth is 9% to 32%, so this field is growing, which means they're hiring, which is a good sign. And then the median wage, so $51 an hour or $106,000 annually, which is nice, right?
So one of the things that ONET Online also provides is it's really great, and you're going to see this a couple times as we go through all of the careers. But one of the great things is, actually, when I work with students, I always ask them, like, well, what kind of job are you looking for? And sometimes we'll look for a job, like a job posting on a board, and see, okay, well, these are the jobs that are available if you just type in computer science, right? But then when you look for like a software engineering job, all these other jobs pop up, right? And you kind of question, like, is this something that I can do with my degree? Is this, what are the qualifications? And so this is where this can go hand in hand. So in the top right corner, it might say infrastructure engineer, but that essentially means that you're a software engineer. So if you have that background, if you have that major in computer science engineering or computer science, then you can put those two together and you say, yes, I'm qualified for this job to apply for. The other thing that you want to look at is those bullet points on the bottom. So you're a student right now. You're learning not just in your classes, but you're also learning skills outside of class. Maybe you're working on campus or off campus. Maybe you are taking other classes as well. And so some of the things that they value in this field are things that you don't necessarily the majority that you learn in the classroom, right? But there are also what Hattie was saying, the soft skills that you learn, how to be a team player. And a lot of those on Own It Online, I'll talk about the technical skills required, but also what other skills are required. So sometimes it's like critical thinking and writing. And as an engineer, as a computer scientist, especially students who want to go into that field, they automatically say, well, I want to be a scientist, so I don't have to write papers. Wrong. You actually do have to write reports. You have to, you have to be able to communicate with your team, with the board members if you have to present, right? So that speech class that you're taking, very important. That English class that you're taking, also very important, even if you don't think that it's applicable. But these are the skills that you're gonna find on this website. And so if you know that as you're going through your classes, that you're missing something, for example, design. You haven't taken a design class or you don't really know what that means, maybe take a drawing class. Or at Pierce, they have some engineering classes that help you with blueprints and all of that. Maybe take a class like that so that you can gain those skills so that when you go out for that job, oh yeah, I know how to do that because I did this. Or in my internship, I asked them if I could take part of design or telecommunications because I know I don't have that skill. And so it's that working backwards to help you figure out where the holes are because you have the education. You have access to that here at Mission College. And so now it's filling those gaps to help you be a more competitive applicant when the time comes. Okay? So we'll go on to the next one.
So the next one is software programmer. And similar to software engineering, they have different titles that go by. So like examples, an analyst programmer, Java developer, web programmer. What they're known as is they're called upon to produce tightly written apps, improve on existing code, come up with new features, or provide the basis for operational external machinery, understanding languages such as C++ and Python, and being able to solve problems will open up a world of work. So some of these skills maybe you've noticed in the classes you've taken. I know that they teach C++ here at Mission. And some of the skills that they're looking for within this field, at least the top 5 listed, are computer and electronics again, English language, the structure and content, mathematics, customer and personal service. So you need to meet quality standards for services and evaluation of customer satisfaction. Then there's the administration and management, which is strategic planning, resource allocation, human resource modeling, leadership technique, and coordination of people and resources. And some of these skills are really applicable now as a Mission College student. So I have a lot of students who are like, I've only taken classes, I haven't worked, I'm not a strong applicant. It's like, those classes have made a difference for you. You're acquiring knowledge that employers find really valuable. Other aspects you could do to strengthen your competition or how competitive you are as a candidate is becoming part of clubs, being involved in your campus community, or doing just volunteering internship opportunities. There's skills in there that you acquire and people are looking for. For example, if you're part of the club, if you become part of the board or the main component, like the president, vice president, etc., you're learning administration and management. You have to manage all these people, and there's examples of how you're doing so within the club. Or if you're volunteering, you have to socialize with people who you're volunteering with, depending on, it's applicable. So if you ever need help with that, again, I'm willing to help with the resume building or the interview skills. I know it's a scary thing. I still get scared, but it's always great to practice and become better, right? So software programmer, the educational level, it's bachelor's degree or post-certificate. So a combination of both is what we found typically among software programmers who responded to the Own It. And then the projected growth is -2%. So it's not as, not as high and as much as the previous one, which is a little bit of a downer, but they're still making $38 hourly and they make $79,000 annually.
It's probably also because of saturation in the field. I mean, there are a lot of people that have that background too who are able to code, but then it's what else can you offer the company, right? Like if you have this set of skills, everybody who goes to school has those skills. What else do you have to offer? And that's where maybe looking at the other jobs can help you make that decision in the future. If you know that this type of job is not available right now, what are other things that you can do within the field that you can help sell yourself?
The next one is computer systems engineer. So other titles they go by is electronic data interchange systems developer, title, a system architect, systems engineer. So this is defined as combining a knowledge of math, science, and electronics with creative thinking to devise a workable, fluid computer system that is fast, efficient, and productive in areas like robotics, home automation, biomedical devices, and office workplaces. So there's a diverse amount of areas that this could be applicable to. Skills that are listed within the bullet points are computer and electronics, which is going to be the most common, English language, mathematics, telecommunications, and then engineering and technology. The educational level for this career is a bachelor's degree with a post-certificate. Projected growth is 2% to 4%, with median wages being $86,000 annually and $41 hourly. The next one we have is network engineer. So titles for this are network analyst, network consultant, network manager, systems engineer. So for this career field, it's defined as computers need to talk to each other. Workers need to talk to each other. A network engineer works on the network infrastructure of an organization, building and configuring strong firewalls, troubleshooting outages, and scheduling upgrades. Skills that are valued within this field are computer and electronics, English language. Again, the customer and personal service comes into play, telecommunications, engineering, and technology. And then the educational level is bachelor's degree for some jobs. Other people who were surveyed for this question listed that they only had associate's degrees. Projected growth is 9% to 13%, with median wages of $101,000 annually or $48 hourly. The next one we have is web developer. So you become a technology applicants engineer, web architect, web design specialist, webmaster are some of the different titles that this career can go by. So the want for cutting-edge, visually arresting websites requires individuals with strong knowledge of HTML, CSS, PHP, JavaScript, jQuery, and WordPress. You also have to have an eye for design and appetite to learn the very latest web techniques desired. So technology is constantly developing. So what they value here is that you're adaptable. You're not going to stick to the same knowledge you knew coming out of college. You're going to know, you're going to update and learn. So some of the characteristics that are valued in here are computer and electronics, English language, mathematics, and communications and media. The educational level is bachelor's degree with a post-secondary certificate. Projected growth is 14% or higher, with median wages being $66,000 annually and $37 hourly. So you can see from the projected growth that they're really going to start hiring more and more. Next is information security analyst. It could also be known as computer security specialist, data security administrator, information security officer. For this career, you have to have an effective defense against cyber attacks. Information security analysts are responsible for ensuring networks are watertight. They keep up to speed with potential external threats by conducting risk and vulnerability assessments and engaging in defense planning. So as we know, this is vital. We hear in the news where there have been breaches in different areas, so like banks, Equifax, the worst one, I think. And then even community colleges have to have protection as well. You may have heard that Pierce got breached, and there's a whole issue with that. So some of the hard skills they're looking for is computer and electronics, English language, telecommunications, administration and management, and then education and training. So this is one of the ones we haven't seen pop up yet. So education and training is knowledge of principles and methods for curriculum and training design, teaching and instruction, and the measurement of training effects. So what this could probably detail to you is not only will you be an information security analyst, but you'll probably look towards to become someone who trains others who enter the field as well, or help to the general public with learning more about this field. So educational level is bachelor's degree with a post-bac certificate. Projected growth is 14% or higher. Median wages is $92,000 annually and $44 hourly.
So if this is something that you're interested in, I would put a star on it, because Mission actually has a certificate program here on this campus. So if you couple this certificate with your degree, the chances of you getting a job within this area might be slightly higher than students that don't have that experience or don't have that knowledge base. So because of the increasing need for cybersecurity, this is definitely one of those fields that's going to be more relevant, and you're going to start seeing a lot more of that. So.
Quick question: are the titles that we're going through, are they in order of like where it kind of starts with a company, like the software engineering, and then down to like cybersecurity?
Not necessarily.
No, so essentially these titles are just in order of how I found them.
Yeah, they're just the common ones that are out there in the field. But good question. We'll get to it. There is some handout in the packet that we'll go over and see. But you can come in at any point in time. If you have, there are some that are entry-level positions, and then within the company, there are ways to move up within the same area. And that's mostly in leadership positions or where you take charge of a group or a team. So, but you would start out as like entry level as part of the team usually.
So the next career we have is database administrator. Some different titles they go by is data architect, data officer, information technology architect, system engineer. So since companies need to handle a lot of data, an effective database system is important. The information has to be safe, regularly backed up, organized for ease of use, and subject to certain permissions and privileges. So some of the strengths of this is also computer and electronics, English language, design, mathematics, engineering, and technology. Predominantly, the educational level for this field was listed as bachelor's degree, but a lot of respondents had master's degrees. Projected growth is 2% to, I made a typo, to 4% or higher. So the median wages is $86,000 annually and $41 hourly. Another career we have is computer programmer. So they create, modify, and test the code, forms, and scripts that allow computer applications to run. Work from specifications drawn up by software developers or other individuals. And then they may assist software developers by analyzing user needs and designing software solutions. They may develop and write computer programs to store, locate, and retrieve specific documents, data, and information. Some of the other titles that computer programmers go by are analyst programmer, applications developer, computer programmer, repeated, and then Java developer. Some skills listed are the computer and electronics, English language, administration and management, mathematics, customer and personal service. As you can see from the definition itself, computer programmers will be working with software developers in developing these programs they need. The predominant educational level within this field was a bachelor's degree with a certificate. The projected growth is -2 or lower. And then the median wages is $79,000 annually and $38 hourly.
Cool. So as you can see, there's a lot of opportunities within the field. Some are a little bit, have a higher outlook than others, right? But if you notice that those areas that have a higher outlook have more application. It's more than just learning how to code. It's more than just learning that or knowing that you know how to do the work. It's application and where you can use it to solve problems. So I think these days a lot of people are saying that computer science or coding, right, is should be part of general education now, especially in elementary school and high school. How many of you have taken like a computer literacy back in high school? I know I did, but it didn't really teach us how to code. And coding now is like a language. It's kind of like math, learning math in English. In the future, students, I think, will have to learn how to code as part of their curriculum because it's so embedded into a lot of things, a lot of different areas. So, so we wanted to transition into what you can do now that you have this information, right? You have your options, you have the research, and you can continue doing research whether you do it online or at the Career Center, right? But what's your next step? So your next step is maybe figuring out what your game plan is. If you haven't made an educational plan with me yet, you definitely want to start doing that so that we can get you on the right path. So here at Mission, we have a couple degrees and a couple certificates. The degrees at Mission is an associate degree in computer science, an associate degree in computer science with an emphasis in business, and its applications in business. And then the one that we're going to highlight today is the associate degree for transfer in computer science. So because while you can get a job with an associate's degree, you notice that the majority of those positions require a bachelor's degree. And our faculty in the computer sciences department will always encourage you to go for that bachelor's degree because that's what a lot of the bigger employers might be looking for. So if you're looking to work for a company like Google, right, that bachelor's degree is like the minimum to get started. So so we'll be going over computer science associate degree for transfer in detail, but I did want to show you what other degrees are available. The regular AAs, they're usually for students who want to just stop at the associate degree. They might already be in the field and they're just looking to get that qualification to get to the next step in their job. Same thing with the certificates. So you can couple that with associate's degree, or if you're already working in the field and you want to learn that extra, that knowledge to give you a leg up in that promotion or whatever it is that you're looking for. We do have some, one in microcomputer applications management, one in microcomputer programming, and cybersecurity associate. Now you can probably find an entry-level position with those certificates, but you're gonna definitely want to move up because the pay it's good, but you probably don't want to stop there, right? It's just that entry-level position. But if you're already working in the field, you're working on your bachelor's degree, by the time you graduate, you're going to be much more successful in finding a job because you do have those skills. And like the cybersecurity associate, that would be something that would be added if that's the area that you want to go into. So we'll talk about, if you look in your packets, after the presentation slide, I provided a copy of the associate degree for transfer in computer science, and this is what it looks like. So remember that in order to transfer, you do need a total of 60 units. I know you guys have heard me say that over and over again, 60 units, but it's so important. Those 60 units are going to be made up of your general education, whether that's IGETC or CSU. Those are your two options. And then the next part, or the second half of your 60 units, are going to come from your major classes. And those are the major requirements or the major preparation that the university requires you to have. So I've only included general education, that's like a whole different conversation, but I wanted to show you what courses are required to obtain this associate degree in computer science. So it does require that you do the beginning computer architecture and organization, data structures, then you get to choose between C++ or Java, or you can do both depending on what is most interesting to you or what you feel like will be most helpful for you. And then the computer science faculty, they have their own experiences with both, and so they can maybe guide you in the right direction of what you want to do. Or maybe the school of your choice may want you to take C++ over Java. It just really depends on what you're going for. And then there is a math requirement. It requires methods of discrete mathematics, Calculus 1, Calculus 2, and the first and second physics for engineers and scientists. So once you complete that with your general education classes, then you're ready to graduate from Mission College, and then you're also ready to transfer out to any Cal state that you want. So if you want to write a note on this, by completing this, you can transfer to any Cal state, any of the 23 Cal states in California. So it's kind of nice to have this because you get to graduate. You are pretty much set for any Cal state that if you decide you want to move to Sacramento and you want to go to Sacramento State, you can use this. Or if you want to stay local, you can still use this. So I just wanted to show you that. And then also to show you the following page after that is this one. So this is a guide that I created for myself and for also my colleagues to help us as non-computer scientists understand what the pathway looks like. And this is the recommended pathway that our faculty do recommend that students take. And because a lot of my science majors, I always explain to them that it's a sequence of classes that you have to take. In order to move forward, you have to build that foundation. And so a lot of it, as a computer science major, your core classes include math, physics, and computer science, of course. So if you look at, this is assuming that you're all at Math 125 or higher, right? That they have prerequisites, and these should be completed in a certain order. So one of the key things to note is 401 and 407 are the two intro classes, and that's Intro to Computers and its uses, and then Programming Logic. So for Programming Logic, you have to have at least Math 115 done before you start those classes. And then once you complete 401 and 407, you have the option of taking Java or going to C++. And again, that depends on the school that you want to go to. We're going to talk about some of the schools and what their requirements are to help you decide which one you want to take. And then at the same time, you're taking your math classes, right? So you want to continue taking your math classes, have that solid foundation, because as you go through the computer science classes and the physics classes, math is really fundamental for those classes. So for example, once you get to the last math class, discrete math, that is recommended before you take data structures. So you would potentially complete 272 first before you take 436, ideally. Now, it's not like you have to, but that's for you to be successful in that data structures class. It's recommended that you do discrete math first. So if you want to put a note on there, that's fine. The other thing is the 416 Computer Architecture and Organization requires that you have some programming language done already. So whether it's Java or C++, you have to know one of the languages in order to be more successful in that 416 class. Okay? And sometimes they say it's a prerequisite, others it's recommended. But this is definitely the route that the computer science faculty do say that you should take. And then of course physics, doesn't matter what major you are, physics prerequisite is at least Calculus 1, because there is a lot of calculus required in order to be successful in those physics classes. So as long as you have at least Physics 1 down, you can start taking the physics sequence. Now, this is only for the computer science for transfer degree, because once we look at the other degrees, we'll find that some of the schools require more or or less, right? So we're going to highlight two schools, two UCs. We've already talked about Cal States, right? So if you follow the associate degree for transfer in computer science, you're good for any Cal States. But what about the UCs? So the UCs are that we're gonna highlight are UC Irvine and UCLA. I chose UCLA because that's probably the most common school that a lot of our students want to transfer to, and then UC Irvine because they have a robust number of majors in the field. They actually have a separate college for computer science and informatics. So that was something that we wanted to highlight to see that there are other options and it's not just computer science as a major. So I just wanted to compare these two. So for the computer science major at UC Irvine, you must have a cumulative GPA of a 3.0, and you must have these 4 classes done. But we know those 4 classes is not really just those 4 classes because we have prerequisites, right? So notice that they want Calculus 1, 265, and then Calculus 2, 266. And then they also want Java, 452, and then C++, 440. So those are the main courses that you must have at the very minimum to transfer to UC Irvine as a computer science major. Additional computer science courses beyond the 2 required are strongly recommended, but it doesn't necessarily remove the requirements once you transfer over, because they might still want you to take certain classes at their school. For example, the first year object-oriented programming class is taught in Python, and so if our class is not taught in Python, they would still want you to take their class. So a lot of schools will do this, so just pay attention. This is all information from their website, and then also assist.org. How many of you have used assist.org? Yay. I always cross-reference assist.org and their actual website within the school, just to make sure that those kind of match up. Things always change, so their website, their actual website is probably the most accurate, but that's definitely a resource for you. C++ and Java is extensively used in the curriculum, so what does that mean? You have to know it, right, before you start. Otherwise, once you transfer out and you don't have these classes, the background in C++ and Java, you may have to take a class there before you do that, and then that limits you from the number of classes that you can take once you transfer out. So at the very least, you must have Java and C++, either by studying it on your own or taking a class in their first quarter. Yeah. And then when we look at UCLA computer science, the GPA minimum is a little bit higher, also because there are more students that probably apply to this major, and we'll see in a little bit why also. So the minimum GPA for UCLA's computer science is 3.4. I know for a fact that the minimum doesn't always get you in there. There's a website that I usually show students about. Every year, UCLA publishes their transfer admission profile per major. So we can see how many students have applied, what percentage of those students have been accepted, how many students enroll, and then the average GPA. And the average GPA for most science majors there is like between 3.7, 3.8, and then 4.0. So if that's a school that you're interested in, you definitely want to work towards that as an option. But that doesn't mean that if you have a 3.4, you're not going to get in, because they look at not just your grades, but holistically, what else have you done on your campus? Were you part of a club? Did you have an internship? What else did you do to invest in this field a little bit more? Maybe you had a computer science project that you worked on, or maybe you're in the honors program. They look at all of those things. At the time of entrance, applicants must have 60 units and completed preparation for the selected major. So this is what they recommend for your major. It looks very similar from our associate degree for transfer in computer science, but they require a little bit more because they're UCLA, and that's the way that they select their students. So we have the Calc 1, Calc 2. They actually want multivariable calc, Calc 3 to 67, and then linear and differential equations. That's like all of our math classes here at Mission. So if this is a goal for you, you are definitely going to dive right into all of the math. The same thing for computer science classes. They want you to have 452 Java and 440 C++. I put a star on C++ because that's the one that they absolutely want you to have. Like, if anything, do C++ because that's what they want. And then physics, they want you to go one step further and taking the third physics class to complete the sequence 37, 38, and 39. So this is just a comparison of two schools, and then we saw the associate degree for transfer, right? So that once you meet with me, if you have like a set of schools that you want to apply to and prepare for, we can make that happen. We can make sure that you're meeting all of the requirements for all of the schools that you're interested in going to. With the Cal States, the only one that might be a little bit different is maybe Pomona and Cal Poly SLO, because they might actually want you to finish the physics sequence and have more math classes. So the associate degree for transfer might not be enough just for those schools. We have to take a look at that. But again, if you come in, make an appointment with me, we can build out a plan so you know exactly what you're taking every semester to prepare for all of the schools that you want to transfer to. And if you decide halfway, you're like, you know what, I don't want to apply to UCLA, I want to apply to Pomona, we can take a look at that and see if it changes the time frame for you to transfer out. Because it does require a little bit, probably like a whole nother academic year to complete those extra requirements for UCLA. So these are some of the things that we want to talk about, ask questions about. So I'm really glad that you're all here to kind of compare what those look like. Okay. I also wanted to highlight what other majors, right? So there's a ton of majors out there that you can do. that can help you get into the tech industry. And I'm only highlighting a few, but as you'll see, especially through our panel, that you don't necessarily have to have a computer science background to be in the tech field. In fact, one of our panel members, she has a background in math. And so later on we can ask her about what that's like and the transition into IT and computer science. So, but for now, let's look at UCLA. UCLA has two majors that you can do, or you can apply for, and it would be the bachelor's degree in computer science and the bachelor's degree in computer science and engineering. So I did like a comparison of what that means. So for computer science, the key difference is that the computer science and engineering is designed to accommodate those students who desire a strong foundation in computer science, but also have a strong interest in computer system hardware. So how to put things together versus just programming. And that's really the main difference between computer science and computer science engineering. Now, computer science and engineering is probably a little bit more classes, but I mean, you have to be able to learn how to program it if you want to make it work, right? So it just makes sense that you have both that background. For computer science, they make valuable contributions to design, development, and production in the practice of computer science and related engineering and application areas. So remember that I know that there are some of you here that are interested in engineering. Let's say, for example, mechanical engineering or biomedical engineering. All of those types of engineers, they have some level of knowledge in computer science and programming. Because in order for them to get the machines to work, they have to talk to the computers through their coding language. So if you're a mechanical engineer and you're going to be working with robots, and actually the last session that we had, I think some of you were here, we had the mechanical engineer from Tesla who works with robots that create the cars. She's a mechanical engineer, but she knows the program and is able to program the machines to work the way that they want it to. Otherwise, they're going to be making faulty cars. So you have to make sure your program is solid and that there are no errors. But for her as a mechanical engineer, she has to know that, right? So that's why the application is so important. And it's not just you becoming a programmer. What else can you do with that, right? Yeah.
So did you say that that lady who works for Tesla, she's going to be in the panel here?
She was in our last panel. We have the video if you want to look at it.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it was really cool to see like what her experience was with that and how there's a lot of overlap in the field of engineering and computer science. So for computer science and engineering, they make valuable contributions to design, development, and production in the practice of computer science and computer engineering, and related engineering areas or application areas, and at the interface of computer and physical systems. So again, it's the building of the computer and also and the design, and then also to make sure that it runs correctly. So that's UCLA, those two majors at UCLA. Now when we look at UC Irvine, which is my alma mater, by the way, so I have no bias. But actually, I also chose UC Irvine because I think all three of our panelists went to UC Irvine. They all don't know each other, but two of them, they work together. But they all went to UC Irvine at different times. And so I wanted to highlight this because they offer a wide variety. So I have students that want to go into computer science because they want to design a game in the future. Well, guess what? UC Irvine actually has a computer game science major. So if that's something that you want to do, you can go to UC Irvine and learn specifically what that is. So at UCI, they have computer science and engineering, common. They have computer game science. They have data science, informatics. They have software engineering, and they have business information management. So they have two schools, the School of Engineering, which houses computer science and computer science engineering. And then there's the other school, it's informatics and information systems school. So it's a whole school just for that. And all of the other majors are housed under that college. So you can tell a school's, where the school's priorities are based on what they have. So a lot of the schools have like College of Letters and Science, and then they have College of Engineering. So they've invested a lot of money into creating a school for this. And so that kind of tells you a little bit more about the school's priorities. So that's definitely something to look into. For example, if you apply as a chemistry major to most UCs, it might be housed under physical sciences, or it might be housed in letters of arts and sciences, which is kind of like a liberal arts school. Or they might have their own college of chemistry. For example, UC Berkeley has their own college of chemistry because they devote that much resources to just chemistry. So wouldn't that be the school that you want to go to because they've invested a lot in that? So those are some of the things that you want to start looking at, what else the school can offer you, and if they have a reputable program. As you can see, all of our panelists are very successful, and they all came from UC Irvine. So, but a little bit about some of those majors. I only wanted to pull 3 that are a little bit less common. One is the BS in Informatics. Informatics is designed around a small set of core courses that introduce the fundamentals of informatics, and this is really human-computer interaction and design. Also programming, and also social analysis of computerization of human behavior. So how do people use computers, and how can we make it a little bit better for them? The other one is computer game science. This is designed around a set of core classes that introduce fundamentals of not just computer science, but also graphics, artificial intelligence. You have a background in math and games, and how people interact with games, right? So a lot of people have their own ideas about what a game should look like and what it should reflect. So if this is something that you're really interested in about, this might be something you want to look into. And then the other one is a newer major that they have, and it's also a growing field within the area. There's a new major at UC Irvine, it's called data science. It has a dual emphasis in the principles of both statistics and computer science, with foundational training in statistical and mathematical aspects of data analysis, as well as in the broad principles of computer science. So let's take a look at how many of you shop online. Okay. How many of you have shopped online, let's say at Nordstrom's, and then you go on Facebook or Instagram, and the thing that you just searched shows up on your feed? That's how they use, this is one way that they use the data and that they're collecting from the internet and utilizing that into marketing. So it's a really exciting field, because if you think about all the apps that are out there right now collecting data, for example, Waze, any of the mapping, or like Uber or Lyft, they're collecting data. So what can we use that data for to help us live a better life? And those are some of the things that data scientists are looking at right now, because there's so much information. What can we use that data for? And that's data science. So it's really exciting stuff that I like learning about too. So this is the slew of majors available at UC Irvine. Any questions so far? My ears are really quiet. Maddie, you look like you have a question.
Because I'm planning to move to Arizona by the summer, and I'm trying to get into like University of Arizona. So I don't know, maybe we can like set up an appointment, but like I want to go there because I heard that they have a really good computer science, like their own building, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to be moving there, so I don't know how that's going to work out if I work on my degree for transfer here.
So when you're moving out of state, it's always a good idea to get your associate's degree, even if it's just the regular local associate's degree or the transfer degree, whichever one is better. Also, out-of-state schools don't always require the rigid 60 units that our universities require here in California. So a lot of schools may only require you to do 30 units, and then you can already jump in. But they're also looking at, programming is the same, math is the same, and physics is the same. So that doesn't change a lot. The other classes might, general education might be different, but as long as you have your associate's degree, some schools will not require you to do any more general education. And I'm saying that like really broadly. The same goes for private schools too. So like for example, USC, they have a really great, strong computer science and engineering program there. They only require 32 units. They have a very specific general education pattern, but what they're mostly looking at is making sure you finish physics, some programming classes, and your calculus. So if you transfer out with 30 units, but you have those, you're good to go. And that could be the same for you at Arizona, but we definitely have to look into it a little bit more. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Research.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
If you go into software engineering, do you have to know how to code?
Probably, yeah. I think you'll have to know the foundations of the languages and be able to manipulate the data that way. And that would be a good question to have because we have a software engineer from Google later.
Why is it that the degree is not a here, is not an AS and it's an AA?
Good question. It's probably because we don't have an extensive number of associate degrees or computer science classes. But our transfer degree is an AS because it requires more math classes and the physics, whereas the computer science, regular computer science degree doesn't require an extensive amount of math or physics.
So would that be valued less since it's an AA compared to an AS?
Depends who you're talking to.
Okay.
Yeah. But associate degrees, I mean, like I said, bachelor's degree are more widely preferred nowadays. So your associate degree might be just a stepping stone to get you into that entry level position. Great question. All right, so we have a little bit of time, a lot of time. So if you want to use this time for a bathroom break, get more snacks, let's give it about 10-15 minutes, and then I'm going to let the panelists know that we're ready to go. But this is our panel. So we have Christine Doan. She is a business intelligence analyst for Capital Group companies with her background in math. We have Joy Kongkitsupchai. She's an integration architect for the same company, and she actually has her bachelor's degree in computer science from UC Irvine and a computer science master's degree at UCLA. And we have Tiburcio, who's a senior software developer at Google, and he has his degree in information and computer science at UC Irvine, and also his master's degree in UCLA. So start generating questions that you might have for them. We have a list of questions, about 7 questions, and then if there's time, which we probably will have, you can ask your own questions that pertain to maybe your interests too, or something that kind of is interesting to you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take a break, and then come back here in about 15 minutes.
I wonder if I have to look now to see if College of the Canyon, if their computer science is an AS,
Hello?
Hey, Roy. We're just waiting for students to come back from break. Let me go to the other side.
I'm not sure what I'm doing. Oh, there you go. Okay, cool.
I'm actually
Like-
next.
So you can hear me right now?
Yeah, we're good. If you want to mute your mic for now until we start.
I had to.
Yep.
Oh, thanks.
Protect this place, keep backups. There's cloning and there's,
Is it carbon soda?
no. The methods are called cloning and, I forgot the other method because I use cloning.
I'm on my capstone right now. I finally made it to capstone.
Does that mean it's your last semester?
It's my last 4 units.
Okay.
And then I'm done. I'll never do this again to myself. I'm so worn out.
It's your master's degree, right?
My master's, yeah. And I'm just like,
I
I don't know if it was the right or the wrong thing to do. I just don't. Because it's like I stepped away from my field for like Also, they're not gonna be here.
It's technology, right? Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So I'm Angela, and this is these are our students. We're just waiting for them to come back from the restroom, and then we'll go ahead and get started in about 5 minutes. Thanks for being early. I really appreciate it. And then we'll have you guys take the lead on the conversation, and we'll go over the questions one by one. And so, and then feel free to mute your mic when you're not speaking. That way it's not distracting, or your face pops up when you're not speaking. So, yeah, and we'll go ahead and get started in a few minutes.
Okay.
All right, so I think we're ready. You guys want to hop on? Cool. And I think Christine, you're on phone, right? You're just calling in.
Hi, Angela. Yeah, this is me. I'm here.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm over here. So like I said, this is some of our students who are all at different levels here at LA Mission College. Some of them know already that computer science is the field that they want to go into, or the tech field is an area that they want to be in. Some of them are not sure. They know that the tech industry is really appealing to them, but they're not sure what they want to get into. And they're still here at community college, so they're doing their prerequisites before transferring to the university. And before this, we highlighted some of the degrees that we have here on campus. We highlighted transferring to the Cal States, UC Irvine, and UCLA. So I know that some of you have graduated from UCLA and UC Irvine, and so that would be something that we might have you guys talk about a little bit. But as we start, let's go ahead and start by introducing yourselves. Introduce us with your name, your current position, and company and location. And then tell us about your educational background, the degrees and schools you went to, and also what are your responsibilities within your position. And I guess we can start with Christine.
Okay, thanks, Angela. First of all, thank you guys for having me. I'm honored to be here on a Friday. So my name is Christine Doan. I am an information analyst at the Capital Group Companies here in Irvine, California. What an information analyst does, or maybe I'll backtrack a little bit. So my company is an investment management company. We manage over $1.3 trillion under asset management. If you think about it another way, we have our main product, which is our mutual funds. And if any of you are in finance or kind of had finance people around you. We're more known for our product, the American Funds. So what that does, our company kind of manages a lot of people's money around retirement. If you work in a company, you have a lot of funds that you invest your 401k. So a lot of times that's when you'll see our product. On the IT side of the house, that's kind of where I am. I'm an information analyst where we work with large quantities of data. So I primarily support our marketing and sales partners working on marketing data. So primarily like LinkedIn, Facebook, you could have sales data, assets data. And so I work really with all that data, working with my business partners there to really help them understand what the data says, what it looks like, how to visualize it. And then that way they can use that information to better plan their marketing strategies. I kind of forgot a couple things that, Angela, you asked for. What else am I missing?
Your degree and school. And yeah, I think that's all you're missing.
Okay, so I graduated with a Bachelor's of Science degree in mathematics from UC Irvine. From there, yeah, I kind of did mathematics. I wanted to specialize in education and go down the teaching route. I decided to go into the corporate environment for a little bit, kind of got a taste of that, really liked it, did accounting for a couple of years, still really didn't know what I wanted to do, and then kind of fell into data, and that's kind of how I ended up here in this position now.
Cool, thanks. And then next we'll have Joy. Oh. Joy?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Joy. I work in the same company as Christine. It's a mutual fund company called Capital Group. Let's see, my current role is I'm a senior integration architect. And what I do is I integrate systems together. So in the mutual fund world, there's tons of system that goes on to support the mutual fund. And just to give you a few, to give you some ideas, there's trading systems, which is the system where we go out to the stock market and trade whatever asset we want to buy or sell. There's settlement, where after the trading is done, there is an exchange of money and ownership that needs to be done between Capital Group and the custodian and the banks as well. There's tons of other systems that does things like portfolio accounting. So once the trade is done, you have to update your books. So there's an accounting system for that. And then there's the reporting to see how well a fund is doing. That's called attribution. So there's tons of system that goes on to support the investment management mutual fund. So my job is to integrate these systems together. So I work with a lot of these application teams to connect their systems and provide the data that they need. As far as educational background, I went to UCI as well. I got a bachelor's degree in computer science from UCI, and then I also have a master's degree in computer science from UCLA. Was there anything else I'm missing?
No, I think you got it all. Thank you.
Okay.
And Roy, you're up next.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yeah,
Hello?
got you.
Cool, cool. All right, my name is Roy Tiburcio. I currently work at Google, Mountain View office. I've been here since, well, here as in Google, I've been with them since 2008, I believe. Educational background, I also graduated from UCI with a bachelor's information and computer science. I graduated from UCLA with a master's in computer science following that. Google paid for that, so that was nice. More importantly, I went the community college route. So I went to Fresno City College for 2 years and did an IGETC transfer to UCI. So my experience might be pretty relevant to you. What is my role at Google? I'm in this organization which is called Engineering Productivity. It's, for all intents and purposes, it's a software engineering group. We are a group of people who don't necessarily focus on the features that you see, such as like google.com, where you get search results and stuff, but we make tools so that other people with, oh, I'm sorry, what's going on here? Okay, sorry. We make tools so that the build systems and all the other software engineers are able to release all the good products to you and not break everything in their world. Did I miss anything?
I think you've covered it. Awesome.
Cool.
So the next question that we have for you is, how did you choose your major? Was it something that started before you got to college, or was it, during college or after? And what are some of the things that led you to that? And then we can start with Roy this time.
Cool. Shouldn't have even muted my mic. What got me into, how did I choose my major? Let's see, how did I choose my major? I've always had a childhood passion for video games. Honestly, I told myself I didn't really want to work with people. Like, I didn't want to do just, the things that I thought was working with people back in the day are very different than what they actually are now. So I got into computer science, and I was so very wrong, and glad I was. I love working with people now. It's just that these people are not customers, and that's great to me. But yeah, I guess in short, video games got me in.
Cool. And then we noticed that UC Irvine had a number of majors related to computer science. Is there a particular reason why you chose information and computer science?
Okay. Information. So when I was attending, there were I believe there were four majors. It was information computer science, just straight computer science, computer science and engineering, and informatics. You guys are also UCI alum, correct me if I'm wrong. I chose information and computer science because it appealed to the more software side for me. CSE, computer science and engineering, it seemed to be geared towards more of hardware and optimization, maybe embedded systems. Same with computer science and informatics. Frankly, at the time, the field was too new, and it wasn't so focused on the hard skills of computers, software engineering as information and computer science was.
Cool, thanks. And then Joy.
Yeah, I went into computer science, I think accidentally. So when I attended UCI, they only have ICS. They didn't have any other fields that's computer science related other than maybe electrical engineering. And I went into CS or ICS accidentally. When I first went into UCI, I picked biochem major, intending to go to med school. But then there was a breadth requirement that I had to satisfy, and I had to take computer science for that. So I had two options at the time. I could either take the computer science for non-majors or computer science for the ICS major. So I had a roommate that took computer science for major, and she gave me a book, and she's like, here's the book for the course, just take that one. So I went and took the computer science for the ICS major, and it was so hard. I think about 30% of the class at the time, at least about 20 years ago, 30% of the class probably dropped out right around week 3, week 4. But I stuck onto the class, and I remember spending days and nights and weekends in the lab for that first course. And I ended up getting an A-, and I thought, wow, it was a sense of gratification, a sense of relief, a sense of challenge. So I kept taking more computer science courses after that. And I thought, this is great. I like the field. And so I made the major switch there.
Very cool. I think a lot of our students are also in that boat where they choose one major and then they start taking other classes and they finally realize that this is something that they can do. So we definitely appreciate that, sharing that. Christine, if you can share us your background a little bit and maybe things that you've learned post graduation too.
Sounds good. So I chose math kind of right out of high school. I always knew I really liked math. I really enjoyed calculus, as kind of funny as that sounds. So I always wanted to go into math. And then as a math major, I started taking a bunch of classes. One of them was a programming class. I really didn't like programming, but I really liked problem solving. And there was a lot of analysis classes and set theory and just modular arithmetic that I found really interesting. And I think for me, I was always just more of like a problem solver. I really liked equations and I really liked finding the right answer. And I liked that with math. There was really one answer, but there were many different ways you could approach a problem. So I wasn't really great at like English or literature or anything like that. I kind of went into math thinking that I wanted to be an educator, as I mentioned before. I wanted to teach calculus at the high school level, and then kind of found out, like just stumbled around and said, you know what, maybe I want to take a break from school for a bit and then kind of explore what else is out there. So for me, I went right into my first company right out of college as a kind of like a reporting analyst. So I worked at this company in the IT area where really I was just taking data and just building reports. I thought that was really interesting, but I kind of thought maybe I wanted to find something closer to my math degree, and the only thing I could think of was accounting. So I transferred into an accounting role within that same company. And it wasn't really real accounting. It was more like system accounting. So it was really just looking at the system that we were processing transactions on and ensuring that the system was generating the accounting transactions and the accounting accurately. So that way the financial reporting teams that were actually using the data like could feel like the data was actually valid and reliable. So I thought that was really interesting. How I got into data was more around kind of exploring all the financial data that I had access to in my last role. I thought that was really, I just thought that data was really fascinating. Like what data could really tell you. Like I just thought it was cool when you looked at how people would react or what type of transactions you would see in data, and just kind of thinking like, oh, this is actually someone who's putting money into this account, and why did they do it, you know, around this time frame, and what other factors did they have to consider? So I thought that was really interesting. And then that's how I ended up getting into my current company and working with data. And I think that's, it kind of doesn't really reflect the exact like major that I picked, but it was relevant enough. So I went that route.
Cool. So I guess the next one is, what led you to your current position today? So I know, Christine, you touched a little bit on this. Is there anything else you'd like to add in maybe the current role that you have?
Yeah, maybe I can elaborate a little bit more. Sorry, there's like feedback. Okay, we're good. I actually had a mentor at my last role. He was really key in my change in the career to my current position. And I really encourage all of you, if you don't have a mentor already, to find someone who can give you honest feedback around like what you actually want to do, what interests you. So my mentor was really experienced. He was like a VP at my last company, and he just kind of would sit with me every month just for an hour, just talking about my development and what I wanted to learn, what I wanted to do. And he really was the one who got me into it, talking about like conferences that he went to, all the new technologies that were out there and what they could actually do and what they were capable of. And I think that's really what invigorated me to make the switch. How I found my job was actually through LinkedIn. I wasn't really looking at the time, but I stumbled upon a company that really wanted to focus on emerging technology. And so with that, they were looking for people to come in who were really looking to learn and grow. And so that was one of the things that that really helped me kind of get my foot in through the door.
Thanks. Yes, definitely mentorship is something that all students should look for, whether they're in their undergrad or beyond. So thanks for sharing that. Joy, what led you to your current position today?
Yeah, so let me start out. When I first graduated from UCI, I had the intent of going straight to grad school, but I was fortunate enough to be offered a fellowship from a defense firm. It was a defense firm, and they were willing to pay for all my master's degree costs, as well as allow me to work part-time and keep all the benefits with healthcare and holidays and vacations, things of that nature. So I took that offer, and I went and worked for the defense firm and got my master's. So after the master's degree, I was offered a job at the CIA, and that would mean I need to move to Washington, D.C., and I didn't want to do that. So I turned that down. And at the same time, I went and worked with a startup company with another friend that I had went to college with. And I came in as a Java developer, but in a small startup, you pretty much have to do everything. So I was the Unix admin. I was also traveling with the sales guy to sell our product, to provide a lot of the engineering capability of the product we're selling, as well as fly up to the customer side to do installation, things of that nature. So after the startup, was there for about 3 years. This was during the whole tech bubble, the whole tech boom and bust as well. So when the tech bubble burst, that's where I got a job at Capital Group. Again, this is from a coworker who I had worked with during that defense firm when I graduated from college. And that's how I end up at Capital Group.
Thanks for sharing that. It's really important to keep your networks too. As students, start working, doing internships, they meet lots of people. So keeping them in contact definitely led you to your current job now. So that's really great. Roy, your turn. What led you to your position today?
So I mentioned I had a passion in video games, and you're wondering how did I end up at Google? So in my junior year of college, all the way up through my junior year of college, I've been dead set. I'm going to go into the career. I'm going to go into the field of video games. I'm going to work on some video games, right? This infamous letter came out, infamous at the time, and for probably people who cared about video games, it came out from the wife of an EA engineer, and one of the quotes from that letter was it was basically one long rant about how they enslaved her husband. They being EA, Electronic Arts, one of the biggest video game producers, studios. One of the quotes was, your work hours are very flexible at EA. You can work any 80 hours of the week you want. And I decided at that point that the industry would probably just grab me up, spit me out, and use me, and I didn't want any part of that. Around the same time, Google was participating in the career fair at UCI. I decided to throw my hat in for an internship. They rejected my resume just because I hadn't had any good experience. I mean, I was in the third year of my college career, and I still didn't have enough good experience for them. So that rather than be discouraged and go somewhere else, I changed all my classes for my senior year. I thought I was just going to coast by on what I had already. I changed it all up to be the hardest classes, to be specifically group-based, the kind of thing that Google was looking for. Very hard project classes, and that got me in the second time. I actually got interviews, and from those interviews, I was hired into the Google Irvine office.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, Career Center, I always emphasize that and what the Career Center can offer you, whether here at our campus or wherever you are, whatever university you go to, look at your Career Center, because that's definitely a place to get started on getting the experience that you need. But thanks for sharing that. The next question that we have is, what excites you about your industry? And then I guess we'll start with Roy.
Hello again. What excites me? What excites me is that it's not for everybody, and it's got a natural niche. There's not a lot of people who can code. I'm excited that I'm always in demand, and the kinds of things that I'm doing, like the problem solving, the creating aspect of it, that's what really keeps me engaged day to day.
Cool. Joy?
I would say, since I'm in the mutual fund industry, I would say if we do our job right, if we successfully invest, we are able to have a lot of people enable their dreams, whether it's early retirement or saving for a college education or buying that new home. It's just a lot of satisfaction that comes with successful investing. And also being in IT, everything is always changing. It's nothing. It's not a dull day, basically. It's always changing. Technology is changing. So it's always new stuff to learn every day. So, and I think that's pretty awesome.
Cool. And Christine, what excites you about your industry?
I think what's exciting for me is just working with, I think working with the business. For me, haven't really had a lot of exposure to the financial industry or even the technology industry. So for me, it's really learning a lot about what we're doing every day from the business side, how we can service our customers, how we know what they need, what they were looking for, and how we can utilize technology to really help enable that. So, for example, like we're looking at how do we reach our advisors better, and a lot of it has been in the past we've been providing them like materials, the printed materials for them to use in their meetings with financial advisors. And until recently, we're like, hey, why don't we leverage technology to help them instead of like having the advisors or having the wholesalers go and print out tons of paper and materials for them to read? Why don't we just have it all nicely put together in an app form, digitalized? So I think using technology to be able to help the business get those goals faster or be able to meet the needs faster for our customers, I think that's really what fascinates me.
Awesome. Yeah, that's also the kind of what we're going for with events like this, where we invite professionals to join us on Google Hangouts. It's because, one, we're far away from LA. We're actually in the San Fernando Valley in the farthest corner possible. And I know that it's hard for a lot of professionals to come here in the middle of the day, take time out to speak for an hour or two. And so Google Hangouts and using technology like this really helps us in education. So thanks for sharing that. The next question we have is, what are some essential soft skills and knowledge to be successful in the tech industry? And then anyone can take this question and then take them.
Let me take a first shot at that. I would say early on in my career, the most essential skill I would say would be the technology, the tech skills. This is learning the latest programming language, cloud computing, data science is really hot right now. So any hot technology, latest technology is essential when you're early on in your career. But as you progress through your career, I've experienced that what's more essential is now communication. It's now how effectively you can persuade your ideas, how effectively you could influence your design, for example. So being in architecture especially, I'm always working with senior management, director level, to bring out the point of view, my design, and be able to influence adoption of my design across potentially multiple business units. And that's where the communication, the persuasion, and the influence comes in. So throughout your career, I think there's going to be some shift, at least that's what I experienced. Early on is the tech skills, and as you progress, you pick up communication skills as more important.
May I go? I feel like I'm just going to emphasize what you said and reiterate. So at the level that I'm at, and in particular at the company that I'm at, communication is huge for us. It's not so much about the tech skills. They're almost taken for granted at this point. Tech skills are like a hammer. Like if you're going to train somebody to be a carpenter or to be in construction, tech skills are the hammer, tech skills are the screwdriver. You can teach someone how to hammer in a nail or screw in a screw, but that's just a very small piece, and it all falls apart if you don't know how to communicate your ideas with others. Presentation skills, particularly to large groups, are very useful. Learn how to speak to large groups, public speaking, design documentation to be able to write that stuff, and not in a way that falls into some crazy format that your school will recommend, but some way that you need to know who you're talking to, understand your audience, and write it to them. And when it does come to writing code, there's a difference between writing code that works and writing code that others can understand that works. And we heavily value the latter. There's lots of people who write very bad code that works.
Yeah, I'm going to have to echo the same thing as the other two panelists. I think early in your career, especially when you're trying to get your foot in through the door, it is helpful to have technical skills in your back pocket. I think SQL is probably the biggest thing I have, SQL. So for me, resumes that on my resume, I definitely have SQL in there or Python, kind of like just to get your feet wet so you can get in the door. But yeah, just to echo the other two, like communication is a really big soft skill that I think, it takes time to develop, takes time to learn. And a lot of it is really understanding your audience. Similar to Joy and Roy here, like I've also worked with senior leaders, a lot of times business people, IT people. So my audience changes. And so therefore my communication has to change with it. A lot of times I'm doing presentations as an analyst, you're kind of required to understand the requirements of the business and be able to kind of articulate what is the scope, what is the design and approach, and what's the timelines and the estimates of the project and what that looks like. So being able to know who you're speaking to give the right amount of detail or just rolled up information, so that way the person has an understanding of what you're trying to accomplish or an action item for them to do. Yeah, I think those are like the soft skills and some of the tech skills that you need, at least in this part of your career.
Very cool. So those public speaking classes would definitely help our students. The next question that we have is what types of experiences do you think will be beneficial to our community college students in achieving their educational goal and career goals? So right now they're starting to take some classes within their field, general education. Some of them are starting to look for internships, but what do you think would be beneficial to them this early on in their career? Anyone, sorry.
Yeah, so I'll start with that. I think early in your career, I think the best thing to do is kind of just test the waters, see what's out there and figure out what you don't want to do. I think for me, a lot of times I try to do something and then realize later after a year or two, like, you know what, I actually really don't like this. So I'd say start earlier. That way you can start eliminating some of the things that you don't want. And getting out there, really getting a mentor, getting exposure to the industry, what type of positions are out there. So going to a lot of conferences or meetups, trying to get an understanding of what you like to do and maybe shadowing somebody or having a mentor to kind of give you a little bit of snippet of what that looks like. And definitely internships. For Capital, we have a lot of internships for summer associates who are in college. They get to come by for 6 weeks and really understand the landscape of what we do. And they get a little bit of preview of all these different roles and positions that Capital has to offer. And I really think that gives a really good exposure to undergrads just for, what they want to do and then figuring out from there.
Yeah, I would say exactly what Christine just said. You gotta try things out and don't be afraid to take risks, especially when you're early on in college or even early on in your career, because sometimes you don't have that opportunity when you are more established. And one of the things I want to share is one of the things I regret not doing when I was in undergrad is international studies. So I took a breadth requirement class, which was in foreign language. I took Mandarin, and one of programs that's part of the language department, it was international studies. And I remember at the time, I thought I was really focused on finishing my undergraduate in 4 years. And I thought international studies would be time taken away from that 4-year plan that I have. At the time at UCI, international studies was at least 1 quarter, so that's 3 months. Sometimes people do it for 2 quarters. But looking back, though, it would have been time well spent. It would have been an opportunity to not only learn the language, but also get a different perspective of the world. And I think that it's hugely valuable in today's world, where if you go out and work for a multinational company that does business around the world, that perspective and that experience, it's going to give you an edge up on your resume.
So I guess my turn. So, yeah, everything that they said, I totally agree with all that. When it comes to while you're in school, focus on group-based projects, or at least have a good emphasis on it. Internships as soon as possible. Don't wait for your senior year. Don't wait for that. Like after you. I mean, I think there are some people who think they can do them after they graduate. I know that certain companies would say we want someone in school. And you're almost eliminated for internships based on that. If you do know you want to go into software engineering or coding or anything computer sciencey, I mean, it's an excellent field. You almost don't need school. I want to say keep going with the school, get the degrees and certifications. But if you wanted to start this evening, you can go and download all the necessary compilers and software. You can get involved in Coursera classes for any of these skills that we've mentioned, any programming language you want. You can hop onto someone's GitHub, which is it's like a way that we share code in public space. You know, like I'll make a change, you make a change, and that's a good way to pick up mentors. Having mentors is great. It's also a good way to get. It's almost a very positive on a resume to say that you've worked on somebody's open source project.
Very cool. Thanks for that. So our last question before we open it up to our students is, looking back now, what advice would you give to yourself as an undergraduate? And I think, Roy, we'll start with you.
In addition to everything that I've just said, I would say don't wait for anybody's permission to get started. If you're really passionate about this, if you want to do it, you don't. It's not like you go through school and then they give you a stamp on your hand and say you can now program software. You can do that tonight. I can't emphasize that more. There's nothing stopping you right now. You can go on YouTube and learn everything you want. So don't wait for anybody's permission to be awesome.
I'll go with Joy next. I know you mentioned international, but is there anything else that advice you would have given yourself?
Yeah, so everything Roy said, I totally agree. You know, I think in life in general, you got to take initiative because nobody else is going to put everything you want or need on a plate and just serve it to you. You got to go out and find your own opportunities. That's definitely true anywhere, including, you know, in the workplace, anywhere in your career. The other thing I want to add, if I was younger, I would go into something like consulting, where you get to work with multiple companies, different industries. You could have clients that might be in automotive or clients that might be in finance or manufacturing, and just get a good feel of the types of companies out there. And consulting gives you a unique opportunity to kind of taste the different arrays of companies, as well as different roles and working environments and the whole corporate structure of various companies. So that's a good way to get experience as well.
I want to add in to the end of that. If you're going to do the consulting route and you end up working, say, part-time with a company that you really like, don't wait for them to approach you. They're legally not able to approach you. You have to come to them and say, I'm interested in a job. Then they can start talking about how to get you in if you want into that company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And Christine.
Yeah, I think the advice I'd give myself back in college is probably taking more, kind of just what the other two said, just taking more opportunities. I was so focused really on my grades and classes that I really lost sight of what I wanted to do after. I think exposing myself to internships would have been really beneficial, getting to see what was actually there, what I was interested in. And really just having a mentor early on. I know UCI has this program. It's the undergraduate mentorship program, and you get paired up with an experienced professional, and being able to tap somebody's brain about like, hey, what are like relevant skill sets I need to learn? I mean, there's tons of classes and prerequisites you have to take, but how do you know which one's the right one? Where should you like kind of spend your time? And I wish I had somebody to kind of like guide me through like, oh, maybe you should take this class, or maybe you should learn this language, or maybe, you know, try this app. And kind of like what Roy said, like Coursera is great. I use Data Camp for Python. So there's like tons of those things that I wish like somebody kind of would have guided me, or at least spent, like, I wish I would have spent a little bit more time there. So I think dedicating enough time to kind of really figure out like what you want to do outside of what you're currently working on in college is really going to help you benefit and like roadmap your career.
Awesome. So now we're going to go ahead and open it up to the crowd and see what questions they might have for you.
I have to go, but I just want to thank them, and I really appreciate all that advice. And right now I'm on my way to the internship week.
Yay!
So
Thank you. Yeah, go for it.
thank you.
Caitlin, do you have a question?
Can I take 2 more please?
What's the difference between software engineering and programming? And do software engineers like have to program or like code?
So anyone can take that question.
I guess I should answer that. So difference between, okay, you're gonna have to remind me about the second part of that question, but the first one that I'm remembering right now is the difference between software engineering and programming. I would say software engineering is a superset of programming. Programming is the tool. That's just the hammer, the screwdriver. But software engineering is how to do that effectively inside of, say, a corporate environment or inside of a startup. It's how to do the programming in a larger scale with a group of people. And what was the second part of that?
So like when you do software engineering, do you have to code?
In general, I would say, yeah. There will be some level of coding involved. I mean, unless you're talking about someone who's so high up the ladder, they're like an architect. But there are some companies where I keep saying some companies, but Google will expect everyone to code. There's a story of when we hired Eric Schmidt as our CEO, we gave him a coding interview.
Awesome. Does anyone else have anything to add to that?
This goes to Roy. Roy, my daughter, is sitting next to me. I'm holding her hand, trying to help her make her decisions. But she, thank you. She really, really wants to know how did she get someone to like maybe she could get an opportunity to get a shadowing opportunity like at Google or some other place. Because she's a high school student still, so we're like a lot of places that, I mean, some places where I look for opportunities, they say, well, no, because she's not 18 yet.
Yeah, the whole 18 thing applies to if you're going to try and apply for an internship or get some kind of job somewhere, but I mean, you can always, I mean, do you know anybody who's in the field of software engineering at all who would be willing to just like work with you on the side or maybe have like a take you to work day or something?
No, that's the thing is that I'm in healthcare, so it's really hard to I can get her in for healthcare, you know, have her mentor with doctors and everything else, but engineering is something like new for me. Like, you know, I mean, I'm not engineering, computer science is something new for me, so I'm just trying to figure out how to get her that shadowing opportunity.
Sure. First off, elephant in the room, I got to say I am extremely busy and I would love to be that mentor, but I personally cannot. I'm sure that's the case for a lot of my coworkers, which is probably why you're having a hard time finding somebody. But maybe explore that network. Maybe if you don't have someone because you're in healthcare, go to your teachers, particularly like your business teacher or someone who's in like an ROP program. They will definitely know somebody. People at the community college would know somebody. I mean, they've all had somebody graduate and go into the field. So yeah, don't be shy about asking.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So add a little bit to that too. There are a lot of like organizations outside of school. So if you wanted to look for like Girls Who Code or Women in Technology International, that's a really great way to network. So you can always find folks there that you can mingle with, establish a relationship with, and then ask them too if they would mind like having your daughter shadow them at work.
For Girls Who Code, I'm on their email. I look for locations, and it's like, to me, I just feel it's a closed door because it's only organizations that already established their own groups. So then it closed the doors for other people out in the public. So I try to make contact with them, but they don't have a phone number listed. Not even on the webpage, they don't have anything. So it's like, it's just been a very difficult journey. The only option I can think of is just becoming a professor at a university, so then I can get those opportunities to network. So,
Christine, can you share your experience with women in tech and how that's helped you?
Yeah, I'm actually on the board of Women in Technology International. So we have a bunch of networks all over actually all over the globe. We're an international organization. There's an Orange County regional network there that I'm on the board for, and we invite all people from all ages, all backgrounds, especially women, because we really want to focus on girls who want to move into the technology space. And so we have events that are around education. So they're more technical skills. Like last month, we had an event for SQL and what was the difference between SQL and NoSQL, what were the benefits, database engineering. And then we also have soft skill events where we bring in speakers who share their experiences about, how they go through influence and how they go through communication, being a female in IT. So there are a lot of female individuals who come to these events from various companies. And, we do have a mingling portion of the night where we do encourage a lot of high school students and college kids to come out and interact with them, because they are kind of building that organic mentorship relationship. And so that would actually open doors for you to be able to say, hey, I'm really interested in what you're doing. Is it possible for, us to set up some time? Can we get coffee with you on your, on campus for where you work? Or maybe I can come and meet you for lunch. And then we really welcome that too. So if you want more information, you can visit our website. It's WITI, WITI.com. And then find whatever network is closest to you.
Data, you went on data cap for Python?
Yeah, data
camp, is that right?
Right. Data camp is it's an educational, kind of like Coursera. They also do R and Python and programming, mainly for data science.
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh, and I have another question. Okay, so currently I'm learning Mandarin and Spanish, and I know that it's good on resume if you know foreign languages, but exactly how could that help a program?
So the question I'm hearing is, you are currently enrolled in a Spanish class, and you're wondering how a foreign language helps you in your career?
Yeah.
So is the language a actual so Spanish language, not programming language, correct? It depends on the field. I think in technology it's helpful, but I don't think it's really that required. A lot of times we're really working with folks who are speaking English, so it's not too big of an impact in my opinion. But I don't know, Roy and Joy, feel free to jump in.
Yeah. Seconded. Oh, sorry. I've got coworkers in Switzerland, coworkers in just across the globe, and I think the company sets a precedent that everyone should communicate in English, just because that's what's broadly known. So to directly answer your question, I don't think Spanish is really would help you in my position.
Okay, I'm going to go contrarian view on this one, because I could tell you, at least from working with Capital, we have an office in Tokyo, for example, and we have systems that are very centric to the Japanese market. And we have a hard time getting requirements from the Tokyo office because a lot of the system analysts here in the States doesn't speak Japanese. So we actually went and talked to a BSA, Business System Analyst, who is native Japanese, and she was able to bridge that gap. So there's cases like that, as well as Capital Group is also trying to push into the China market, in particular, selling mutual fund in that industry. So as far as architecture group, we are traveling to Beijing to learn about their requirements there and their challenges there. And one of the managers in the architecture group is asking, does anybody here knows fluent Mandarin enough to be able to take the group over there and be able to get around? So that's been my experience with the international language at Capital.
Maddie, did you have a question in the back? No. Anyone else?
Question. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you guys think you're going to be with the same company or maybe with another company?
That's an awesome question. Very awesome question. I always keep myself open to opportunities. So it would have to be more than a lateral step if I were to move to another company. But I do see myself here for another 5 years. I've got good trajectory. I haven't come to a stopping point. So yeah, I see myself maybe at least 1 or 2 rungs higher on the corporate ladder in 5 years.
I would echo what Roy mentioned. I think everybody should have their LinkedIn profile updated all the time, because you never know when and where opportunities will arise. Just keep an open mind. But same with Roy, I think for me at least, probably Capital Group for the next 5 years.
I also want to add to your addition, don't take your current company or any company for granted. Anything can happen. Look at Yahoo, any other tech company, anyone else in the tech bubble or the dot-bomb era. Just because you have a comfortable job today doesn't mean you will tomorrow. So yes, keep your skills up to date. Keep them reflected on your resume, LinkedIn. You can move at any time.
I think for me, Capital is definitely a really great place to be. I really enjoy the company culture. I really like the benefits that I get from Capital, and it's so interesting because every day is, you know, a different project, a different challenge. I think as long as you're getting the growth that you need, whether that's getting challenged in your role or maybe getting challenged in maybe getting promoted or moving across the IT area in the space from different positions, I think that's really where you should focus your efforts on, because getting to have those challenges and struggle will make you grow into a more well-rounded skill set person. I think for me, I've kind of seen the IT side, and if I could predict in the next 5 years, it may be a switch into a different role, either within the company or outside. I really want to get that kind of full big picture. So right now I'm an analyst on the IT side, but maybe in a few years I'd like to be an analyst on the business side and kind of see what that looks like.
Very cool. Thanks for that question. Anyone else? Any other questions that you have about the background, your experiences? Do you have a question?
I would like to ask, I'm having a little difficulty figuring out what exact major I should go with inside the computer field. Now, I enjoy tinkering, modifying, and many other things following that route. I can go as far as hardware and programming. My question to you is, what major best suits it?
So I guess it's deciphering between all the different types of majors that are out there, but yours specifically is computer science and engineering, kind of.
I was thinking that most.
Okay. Are you asking more about its application in the real world, or whether it suits your interests?
It suits my interests.
So does anyone have any experience maybe in thinking about computer science and engineering and how you know it's right for you?
Are you undecided between computer science or not computer science, or are you undecided between which realm within computer science?
Which realm within computer science?
Ah, okay. If I can only respond with what my experience was, and when I went to UCI, I mentioned that there were those 4 different fields. You can start in any one of those 4 different fields, you know, electrical engineering, computer science, information computer science, informatics. Early on, I would say even up to maybe the 3rd year, you do have a lot of classes overlapping in the majors. This will give you both time to think about it while you're there and exposure to not only the other students who might be in a related field, such as electrical engineering. You can also get exposed to those professors and possibly even those classes. And if you end up not going that path, it might still count towards some path in your computer science career. So yeah, if computer science is for you, if it's that broad, you can just start with any of them, and then make sure to take common classes while you're looking.
Thanks. That was really helpful too. And that happens with a lot of science majors, engineering, computer science. You guys have all the core classes, the same core classes here at Mission. So you really don't have to choose 100%. And there's always that chance, like what Joy did. She switched from one major to a completely different major. And that is still possible to complete your studies, especially once you're out there at the university. Any other questions?
Go ahead.
Can you, okay, with coming to Mission College and a degree is an AA, does it make a difference with your employers if it says AA or AS? Like, just with a 2-year degree, just to get a basic kind of like entry-level job. Do you guys know?
I honestly don't know. Yeah, sorry. That's the best I can give you.
Or maybe your employers, are they looking for mostly students who are working towards a bachelor's degree, or do you know if there are positions that are available to students who have their associate's degree? Because we do have a lot of students who want to start working within the field with just their 2-year degree, and then are continuing on before transferring for their bachelor's degree.
Let me put out some facts to emphasize that it's not so much about the degree, but the skills. So, I mean, there are some people in the recruiting chain that will look and see like, oh, this is just associates. We're only considering bachelors. But I do know people who've been hired just based on pure skill alone. These are guys who graduated from high school and were just absorbed from other companies. I know one guy who got a bachelor's in arts doing some kind of graphical design, but he had the hard skills, and we tested him on the hard skills, and he was good enough to hire. And he's one of our amazing engineers. So it's not so much about what letters go at the end of your name. It's about what can you bring to the table.
Yeah, I would totally echo what Roy just mentioned. I could tell you from architecture group that I'm in, we have people that major in German, people that major in the arts and end up in architecture. And this is like working on the UX, the whole customer experience type of architecture. So it's really what skill you could bring to the table. If you can show a portfolio of work that you've done in the past or past projects, whether you say build a website or build anything, and be able to showcase that, I think that says a lot more than between an AA versus an AS.
Yeah, I have to echo the same thing. I've been a lot of recruiting efforts too with early careers and interns. And so for the most part, we're really just looking at what you can bring to the table, what type of experiences and projects that you've been on, whether that's projects within the school or maybe projects within companies that you've been interning at, and really just kind of your skill sets. So how whatever degree you have, whether it's an AS or AA, I don't think we're really looking at that too much, at least not from what I've seen. But really just looking at your potential. If you're willing to learn and if you're willing to kind of put on your resume that you're here to really grow, that's really what we're looking for, at least for CG.
Awesome. Yeah. One more question.
As a software engineer, what's like the most important program to learn?
As a software engineer, what is the most important software or language to learn right now? Because it's always changing, right?
There's not a good answer to that question. The most important one is whatever gets the job done. If you're looking for a good set of languages that you can target with a high probability of being important to the industry, I would suggest C++, Java, Python, JavaScript, HTML, all of the above. Let's start with those. Look for object-oriented programming languages in particular. It's kind of like the whole the Latin set of languages, spoken languages, where you can learn one and they'll transfer easily into the others. So for instance, if you learn Java, it's not too much of a leap to begin learning C++ as well. A lot of the concepts are the same thing.
Yeah, I'd say if you wanted to go into like the data science route or the analytics route, I would say SQL is definitely something you definitely need to know. Python and R are also really helpful too.
Yeah, I would say add .NET because CG switched from Java to .NET, but Java is still a very strong language out there.
Awesome. We're gonna let you guys out a little bit early so you can enjoy the rest of your Friday afternoon, but we really want to thank you for spending some time with us today on a Friday, and since you students are coming out, spending some time with us too. So we're gonna go ahead and email you the information, also a copy of the video as well. By the way, this is all on going to be shared with all of our science, our STEM majors, so that students who are not able to come today because of work or other obligations, they have access to this information too. But we really want to thank you for sharing all this information with us. I know I learned a lot, and I think our students really appreciate that as well. So thank you so much, and I'll be in touch with you three after today. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Good to see you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.